Hello and welcome back to the Power Podcast with me, Joe, Sam, and Alex. I am all three of them
Hello.
now. I am everyone.
Oh,
I'm every podcaster. They're all
So
in me.
this week we're doing, this week and potentially the next couple of weeks we're doing double-edged blank. This week we're doing double-edged items, weapons, etc., etc. Basically, just anything that has a downside. For instance, the double-edged sword. It has two edges. The saying really just comes from the concept of it has both a positive and a negative, or positives and negatives. Coming from the concept that a sword is very useful to use to cut people or use for a weapon. But obviously, like if it's brought back to you, someone can also use the opposite edge to cut you on your own sword. But as Sam you were saying earlier, double-edged swords aren't necessarily always something that's considered negative.
yeah. The phrase has been kind of it's one of those things that have been like made the other way over time because I did look this up because I was
It's
curious
like the
why
glass
why
half full
double-edged
thing, isn't it? It's like originally people say glass half full, other people say glass half empty, and it's that thing of it's a double-edged sword. Win-win. It's bad for me and it's bad for them. But it's that thing of now it's like it's bad for me just as much as it is for them. It's really perspective, isn't it?
I know, but okay.
I mean, I was reading up on it myself, and it seems that really depending on what material you read on, some people use it mostly, especially now in a lot of like anime and a lot of cartoons or specifically anything to do with like actions, like special ability superpowers, even weaponry like militarized weaponry and warheads. They say something is a double-edged sword. What they really mean is it can hurt us as well. That's my experience from it anyway. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Sam.
I mean, it's like I'll have something to add to that.
No, go on. Yeah.
Over this time. Like, I think that it really does depend on like the item, but like a lot of like double-edged things of like ironic consequences to using it and stuff. Depending on the person, like they're not really downsides to some extent.
Well,
Like,
we'll get into
yeah,
that. We'll
we'll
get into
to
that in a
Yeah.
bit. I mean, you're definitely right though. But either way, we'll go into our examples first and foremost. Obviously, the double-edged sword. That's not my actual one. It's just the literal one that hangs over this entire subject. But Sam, what do you have for your example for this? Subject?
Because it's quick, I'm going to go with pretty much every sentient item or weapon in D&D. Because they can be very useful. Like remember someone made a sentient item that is like wild magic and just roll on a table for what happens. Like, oh, the room fills with cotton candy. Oh, a giant rhino appears that's angry and or pregnant. That wild magic in itself is kind of double-edged sword. But specifically for sentient items, it's because they have the power to possess / mesmerize people if they're being used. So that's you have the downside of being possessed, which is downside enough.
Yeah, I mean the main reason as to why most people would take up arms of any kind of like object, item, weapon, is usually to either attack or defend in some way, shape, or form. They want to be in control of what they're doing. They want to be able to, it's almost a form of survival or a form of actual offense. And suddenly, you pick up this thing that you're like, this will help me survive, or this will help me defeat this person or kill this person. And suddenly, there's a good chance that you're actually the food for the very thing that you're picking up.
I mean, usually they will talk to you first before they just possess you.
Not all of them do.
Depends on the item,
but there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Again, as I said, like Soul Edge and Soul Calibur from the game Soul Calibur. Those are like sort of the same sort of thing, or like sort of like possessed items. Alex, what about you?
Well, my example was the monkey's paw, which is an old
Yes, I
story.
forgot about
Yeah,
this.
it's an old Victorian story, which has been, I mean, everyone, I think, immediately, even though you haven't read the original story, you know about the monkey's paw because it's been used over and over again as like parodies, as like people's own take on it, or just as a concept. It's a literal monkey's paw that's been mummified, and it grants you free wishes. That was the initial thing. I mean, it's been changed, in various iterations, but it gives you free wishes, and one of the, fingers curls once the wish has been made. But it always that it has the ability to bend reality itself, like to make your wish come true, but it's always at a cost, like usually a very tragic and ironic cost. Like in the original story, it was about the son of the couple that it's given to. He dies, and they just because they wished, oh, I wish we had £200, which is a lot of money at the time, and he dies tragically due to an accident, and the payout from that accident is exactly £200.
Damn, that's
It's
cold.
that kind of stuff. It's that kind of stuff, and like trying to write that, they said like we really want him back, and he does come back as a shambling zombie.
Oh, brilliant, awesome. I
Yeah,
mean, if you
and
want to
then
talk about things that are bastardized, Sam, definitely the
Mhm.
monkey's paw is definitely one of them over time.
I mean, really, they've kind of kept the same idea of it. You make a wish, but something terrible happens, and it's dead.
Okay. Well, I don't mean there's an.
It's not something that's been very
It's
bastardized.
not been bastardized.
Not been reversed.
There's a lot of bastards
It's
of
not
it.
this.
There's a lot of things of it where if a lot of things take inspiration from it. I guess there's a better
There's
way of saying.
tons
mean,
of like
there's
homages
no-
and pastiches of it. Yeah,
I mean,
like
yeah.
the Wishmaster series, all genies really.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
genies
like all
nowadays.
genies.
I mean, especially if you were actually
Or
going on something like what was it? In The Witcher, like again, spoilers for the Witcher season 1. There is, I'll wait until people know that there's a spoiler coming up. There is a djinn or a genie, and the difference is all of the genie's wishes has 3 wishes, but the issue with the wishes is that they will usually have some kind of very literal effect or some horrible effect. But the weird thing about it is that they're not trickery, but they will attack anyone else who is not allowing the djinn to succeed on delivering the wishes, because djinns basically want to be freed from their bottles or lamps or whatever they're placed in. So at one point, this guy is trying to ask the Witcher something, and he just says, "I would just want you to shut up," and then he gets some kind of horrible magical disease in his throat that's killing him, but because of which he can't talk. So it's that thing of like the djinn is doing this wish for him, and it's that kind of like really harsh thing for him. But yeah, there's a ton of different weird things that happen with that.
It's one thing that does actually, because it was done very recently in a creep show as well, and that is one thing that annoys me about the trope of it. It's like, yeah, it's very literal with the genie, and he does it by accident, so he knows the rules of the thing, so he can't. That's why it happens, because he truly does it by accident. He doesn't mean to do it.
Mm.
Whereas,
I
like,
should say,
yeah.
even the X-Files did that.
Well, yeah, but it's been done. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not denying that. It's just that what annoyed me about the latest Creepshow episode that did this exact thing with an actual monkey's paw again is that it is the story, but like the woman involved, like without spoiling anything, the woman involved knows the rules of it, like really viscerally knows the rules, and like you would think knows not to be very that needs to be very specific. Okay, you'd think that she would know this as an intelligent person. No, she doesn't. She still does it anyway, and she does the thing, and the obvious thing happens.
Before we continue going further, I'll just say my example, and then we'll get back to it.
Yeah, go
I
on,
mean,
go
I
for it.
feel really bad because I really should have said mine first because both of yours are actually way better than mine.
Oh, shush. No, it isn't.
No, because
Go
I was saying about like, oh, we need ones that are iconic and weapons that possess people, and then also like the monkey's paw. Like the one that I've got is just it's going off in the similar sort of situation as the weapons, but instead of weapons that are possessed, weapons that are too powerful for mere mortal hands. You see them in a lot of different things, a lot of different shows, a lot of different legends and tales and comics and stories and all sorts of fiction. The one I'm going to say is from an anime. What a surprise! The one that I'm actually going to say is the Treasures of the Sage of the Six Paths from Naruto. There are 6 different treasures, or 5 different treasures, that all have a special ability, very powerful and damn near indestructible. However, anyone who tries to wield these basically god tier items, upon one use they die because it uses up all of their natural life energy, or chakra, or ki, or chi, or whatever you really want to confirm it. In Naruto, it's called chakra, and basically if you use all of it, it kills you because it also zaps away your life force if there's no more chakra left to go around. Now, some people who have trained well enough and gotten to a higher capability of chakra can actually survive using them once, but basically are very badly like crippled for at least a few hours until a few hours after, or even a couple of days after. But there's 2 guys, these 2 brothers, who end up having an incredible amount of power that are able to use all 5 of the treasures, or at least 4 of them, without any downsides. They can just keep using them willy-nilly, firing off all of the attacks and special abilities. One of which is a fan that can summon and control any of the 5 elements: lightning, fire, water, wind, and earth. And because of that, they just have so much devastational power. There's a ton of different effects, but yeah, basically they're like, that's the idea of just like the double-edged sword, or the downside of them is that anyone who wields them practically dies or is pretty much just zapped from using it because that no one else usually has the amount of power to be able to wield them normally.
I think that's a pretty good double-edged thing, because it's like, with great power, you kind of have, you don't want everybody using these great big powerful weapons. That's just dangerous. So they either have to be equally as powerful in order to, like, know how to use them, or in theory know how to use them, or it's like a last-ditch effort. You use it in order to use this amount of power and like save your village and your family or whatever,
Yeah.
but you die. So yeah, this you don't go around being like this super villain saying, "Yeah, I've got the amazing, all powerful items now."
It is one of those things that going into this subject now and actually talking about like different ones that like are actually kind of an interesting concept is, as you said earlier, Alex, which was some of the downsides aren't necessarily directly affecting the person straight away. They could come in the form of trickery, or as with the monkey's paw, it's based on literal concepts, or even just literally taking something out of context and changing it. But it's that thing of like, there is a difference between usual downsides and drawbacks, and then having some kind of I guess you could say some kind of catch. There's a catch to it. There's something that is still attached to this that is yet to come all the way around. For instance, with the monkey's paws and genies, it's how you stated your wish. What might the genie or the monkey's paw do to give you this wish? And in D&D, Sam, as you said, with the possession weapons, some of them can be really powerful, and some of them can have some incredible knowledge or wisdom. But eventually, they're going to try and steal your soul, or take over your body, so that they can pilot you. It really depends.
Depends.
It really depends.
Like some of them are nice.
Some of them are.
Like if
yes.
you're playing, like say you're having a jug weapon and you're playing like a mass serial killer. Sooner or later, that angel weapon's probably going to stop helping you.
Either that or possess
Hey,
you.
cut it out. I'm
You know?
supposed to kill for good, not for evil. What are you doing to those children? Hey.
I mean, they're pretty
imagine
evil.
the sword
No,
sounds like.
that's not how we do things. Let them
Called
go.
rationalization.
So, obviously, we're talking about those. Obviously, I would be remiss if to not say the One Ring from Lord of the Rings is also something like that. Although I would say that, like something about double-edged swords, they don't always necessarily have to be balanced. One edge does not have to be as sharp as the other. And I really feel like the ring, you kind of get a bit of a raw deal. Invisibility to anyone who wears it. You're immediately hunted down by ring wraiths, and eventually you'll be corrupted anyway by Sauron himself.
It's not made for general use. That's the thing. It's made for it's made for Sauron essentially. It's got a bit of Sauron in it.
The irony of it though is that like Sauron cannot die unless if the ring is destroyed, but his immortality doesn't seem to allow him to have the ability to have indestructible fingers, because when he wears it, a dude just chops off his fingers and then he's like, aha, the ring is gone, and his whole form just disintegrates.
I mean, the thing is, wasn't the sword like hot at the time? Wasn't like broken on the like Mount Mordor or something? Maybe it got like heat.
I don't know. You are asking.
Don't know. I haven't seen it.
Person.
I haven't seen it, and
I haven't seen it in a long time either.
Hey, nerds of the internet, explain to us in the comments what we're not getting here.
Thank you, Alex. Yes, explain to us. A mansplain it to us. A nerd-splain it to us.
Connor, you watched Lord of the Rings, I think.
I mean,
Connor, we have a project for you.
I want to know,
and only you.
I want to know exactly how it works. So, either way, so there's a ton of really cool things that like happen. Like obviously, you've also got like, for instance, the what is it, the I can't remember what it's called, like some kind of special stone from Harry Potter, and it's like you can see.
Oh, the Philosopher's Stone.
No, not the Philosopher's Stone. There's another one. The one.
Oh, yeah, the seers where you could like see your people who've died.
That's it. Yes, and it's like the original thing was like that had a trick to it. That was something. But obviously, we're not really talking about tricks because by technicality, that's just a functionality of it. It's not really a double-edged sword. It has positives and negatives, yes. But I really kind of want to talk about items that specifically, when you're in use of them, either there is some downside to using them, or you're just as in danger as whoever is on the other end of the weapon or item. I was actually going to say, this is a weird one, the Berserker's armor from Berserk. It's an armor that whoever wears it, basically, the whole thing like clamps onto you, and it gives you like enhanced I think it gives you enhanced strength, but either way, it's a very powerful, durable armor. But what it does is it holds you together. There's a moment where the guy who wears it, Guts, he like gets his arm broken, and it basically suppresses his pain and then just twists his arm back into place. It doesn't heal it, it just keeps it going. And eventually, like when at the end of like a fight that he's gone through, the armor is just dripping with blood, and it's just all his from all of the wounds and injuries that he's been inflicted, but the armor's just kept like putting him back together. Again, it's just holding him like kind of like linchpins. But it also, the main reason as to why he doesn't stop is because it's the Berserker armor. It keeps giving him this incredible bloodlust and basically like a furious rage that just keeps going and going and going until he's either done with killing everything or until like he wrestles control over it. But it's like it's an armor that just enhances certain abilities and skills that he already has.
I really like that because it sort of is a comment on like rage. It's like, yeah, rage could give you this adrenaline and like really pump you up, but like it does when the red mist rises, it's like, you could be doing incalculable harm to yourself and everybody around you.
I mean, have you
Evil
ever heard of
intentionally.
like? I mean, I will go into this a little bit further, but have you ever heard of hysterical strength?
No, I haven't actually. Is it a real thing or like an
I
anime
know
thing?
this.
No, that's an actual thing. I mean, they talk
Aha.
about it in anime, but they
I-
actually do talk about it quite a bit in
It's-
there was a film. It was like an actual film to do with like actual like fighters and boxers, and they said like the adrenaline that rushes through you, it breaks certain limiters or opens up some of the body's limiters, so you can keep going, and it can give you more strength, more speed, more durability. It suppresses pain, allows you to keep pushing past your original limits. However, afterwards, as you said, the damage to your body could be that thing of you didn't realize it at the time, but that you've now pulled or torn muscles just from throwing a punch too hard because you didn't realize that all of that was going into this one. All of your body weight was going into this one arm thrust, and again, your body normally limits the amount that it can do, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, hysterical strength. I definitely recommend it if people are actually interested in having a look. We'll talk about it a little bit more in another one of the episodes. But Sam, did you have anything to add to that before we move on to the next sort of topic?
No, not really. I was just going to say what you said.
No, okay. But yeah, no, I'd say like armors like that are kind of interesting. I didn't know if you guys have any other like like any particular items that you wanted to bring up for discussion of like double-edged items.
A little bit. It's just like, well, you talked about. That's the thing. I was gonna like talk about Stormbringer, which is like the sword that pretty much started, everything. But you said, Soul Edge. That you should talk about Soul Edge from like the Soul Calibur series and like,
Yeah.
which basically, anybody who wields it, unless they have incredible will, it just infects their soul and drives them mad, essentially. And it's but it's like that also comes from like Stormbringer from the like which series was it? It was a Michael Moorcock series. Uh, talking about this guy called Elric of Melbourne. I'm sorry if I'm getting that if I'm
Is
pronouncing it wrong.
you
Yeah,
know what? Alfie was talking about this ages ago.
yeah.
Damn it. We need
Flashbacks.
Alfie.
Flashbacks.
Alfie, help us. If
No,
anyone
it's
remembers this, I think he spoke about this at some point in one of the first episodes. Like, and there was
more of an expert. Yeah,
He's more of an expert in this, but yes, I think
he really should.
I think
Yeah,
it is
he's
Michael
more of an
Moorcock
expert
or
at that.
something like that. Or
Yeah, and it's basically Stormbringer it's kind of like the same. He's like kind of the originator of this idea of a sword that's possessed by a demon, and the catch is that it gives like its wielder incredible strength, but it can take over your body and essentially it powers itself by eating souls. And like basically Elric ends up killing most of his friends and relatives and people who don't deserve it in order to basically just power himself up, and like it's almost like a drug almost. Like he feels pleasure when getting the souls rendered into him.
I think it is actually just called the Moorcock multiverse. I'm just having a look just to be 100% sure.
Yeah.
Uh.
Alfie, just slowly texting Alfie.
Stay well away. That
Alfie.
so it has okay. Okay, The Sailor on the Seas of Fate is one of the names of the books that they actually talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's the Sailor on the Seas of Fate. I don't actually know the name of the things. I'm actually just looking this up. So y'all can talk again whilst I try and find out what the hell
explain this to us. Nerds explain this to us in the comments. Yeah, but it's basically that idea where it is like it's a semi-sentient thing, and well, it is fully sentient. It basically just like talks to Elric and says like, "Hey, gotta eat some souls. You won't be weak and terrible if you let me eat some souls. Tasty children's souls." And there's been so many iterations of that idea of like this tempting blade. And eventually, I guess spoiler alert, eventually it does eventually consume him. Like Elric knows that he is basically like a weakling without it, and he manages to save the day, but the demon just betrays him at the end and just becomes like, just goes off to create chaos and go, ha ha, you gave me a form. I'm
The first ever
paraphrasing.
book that the first ever book that Michael Moorcock ever wrote, in this specific series anyway, is called The Dreaming City. Or at least Elric first appears in The Dreaming City. I know so little about this. I'm reading this up on Wiki right now as we speak. I think there's a Michael Moorcock, Elric of Melonbone, or Melnibone. I'm so bad at pronunciation.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
yeah. I mean, we'll just call him Elric. We'll just call him Rick.
Either way, yes, it was indeed. It was indeed. That. Anyway, yes. So go on. Yeah, it was a sword that could possess people's souls, and it granted people great power. But unless
basically,
you had will.
Yeah. But that's even so, it's like the will is just not even there. It'll just take control of you if it wants those tasty, tasty souls, and it is incredibly powerful nonetheless. And it can cut through pretty much everything unless it has like a particular magical ward on it. So essentially, it immediately outclasses all normal swords.
Oh yeah.
So that's why it's used there, and Elric uses it in particular because he's born very weak and like dependent on drugs in order to basically just get out of bed in the morning. He is just genuinely, he's strong of mind, but he's not strong of body. And this sword basically just gives him everything he wants. It gives him strength, dexterity, fighting prowess, and all it wants in exchange is some tasty souls. And it doesn't really discriminate on, whether Elric wants to take those souls or not. It's like it's taking those souls because it's a demon and it's evil.
So I'm gonna say this for stuff about weapons. I'd say that is quite a decent double edge to a sword. Is that, like, again, as I said, to Sam's choice, which is basically, this is pretty much similar, is you want a weapon so that you can wield it and use it. If a weapon starts wielding you, it's the adverse effect of the exact thing that you want. What about you, Sam? Have you got any other things that you wanted to talk about, discuss, or ask about in this particular subject? I know you said that you had a couple.
Yeah, but they're too long, apparently, remember?
They're too long for an example.
I mean, it involves me having to go through the entire series of Fable for you to understand the basic idea of what it is.
I must say, you did explain. I will say this. Sam explained this to me earlier, and I was like, that's a lot.
Oh.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
Sam, okay, well, I'm just going to rattle off a few quick ones then. So obviously there is the mask from The Mask. There is obviously the helmet of Dr. Fate. And, big shocker with this one, you've also got the usual... I'm gonna allow this one specifically only because that it's actually something that grants powers, but it is still an item, and that's a devil fruit from One Piece. I mean, technically, the powers I'm probably going to talk about at some point a little bit more if we ever get to double-edged powers. But yeah, the fruits themselves, when you eat them, they give you powers. But two horrible downsides: A, you are cursed forever, and B, they taste really nasty. Apparently, none of them have ever tasted nice whenever people try to eat them. But I was actually going to talk about another one that's still in the same universe. Is the smile or the sad fruits. Now, basically, they are artificially created fruits. They're known as smile. And basically, anyone who eats them, there is a 10% chance that you will get a power. But in that other 10%, in the other 90%, there is a possibility that you'll end up with a curse called the Smiles Curse, where you have an unshaking, unchangeable smile on your face. When you try to cry, you will laugh. When you try to be angry, you will laugh maniacally. Basically, you will laugh all the time, and you will never be able to change it. And they don't confirm it if you can or can't, but some people have said that even if you don't get the powers and you're cursed with a smile, you also lose the ability to swim as well. So there's no confirmation on that bit, but that's a horrible downside for a 10% chance of getting what seems to be a really crummy mutation, because some people get like, oh, I permanently now have horns on my head, or I permanently now have a lion's face on my stomach, or something really, really ridiculous like that. One guy has an elephant on his stomach, like an elephant's face on his stomach. Another guy has like scorpion legs.
It's like, ooh, scorpion legs. Well,
one guy has bat wings. Like,
I mean, that's slightly better.
They are in the place of his normal arms.
Still, but it's better than just having scorpion legs, I guess.
Oh yeah, but the guy who has scorpion legs also has a scorpion tail. That is the size of
there
what
we
it would
go.
be
That's
for
better.
a human sort of thing. It's
Well,
like,
see, that's better. If he just had the scorpion legs, that would suck. It's like, oh man, I don't even get the stinger.
no, he definitely gets the stinger.
That's rubbish.
But yeah, it's still that that's kind of meh. It's kind of crappy, kind of crummy. So I just had to rattle off that one. I was gonna say the wands, I guess, in Harry Potter. If you're not the chosen specific person for them, they basically backfire or don't work as effectively for you. Even the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand ever, also has this problem, because all of them work that way, unless if you are worthy of wielding it or the chosen next of kin, quote unquote, for the wand. Basically, you don't have that ability to use it.
Even worse, actually, because the Elder Wand, because they're so fickle. Like, once you beat someone in a duel, their wand is yours. Essentially, the wand loses allegiance. And, like, the Elder Wand is so fickle that, you just literally could just bash someone on the head or cut their throat during the night, and that wand is yours. Like, you don't have to fight fair.
It has to be that person, because Voldemort believes that it's... I think he believes that it's Snape. And it actually turns out that it's Malfoy. And Harry Potter, beat Malfoy in a duel at another point. So he's the one who has he's the one who's chosen for the wand, and he just snaps in half.
Yeah.
That's spoiler alert, movie, I guess I should say. That is only in the movie.
It's a better ending. That's only in the movie. That's the thing. It's better in the movie, because if I had that, I mean, if I had that, this is incredible. Like, millions of people have potentially died from this one. Goodbye. We're ending this vicious circle. We're stopping this right now. Whereas in the books, it's like, he just puts it on Dumbledore's desk and never uses it again. Which, to be honest, again, if someone just cuts Harry Potter's throat in his sleep, that wand is theirs now. So it's like, yeah, that's quite a fickle wand, and yeah, that's the downside of having this incredibly powerful wand. Is thousands of people are just going to come, going to bum rush you.
The irony of it, though, is and I'll actually talk about that, and I'll talk about something else. Is the irony of that is actually, as well, if someone say beats you in a duel or something, and you somehow get your hands back on that wand, it still backfires, or your spells aren't as powerful as they should be, because you're not truly the wielder. So you then have to beat them either with another wand, without a wand, or using this wand that is basically fighting against you relatively, just to earn its approval again. But I was actually going to say Afro Samurai. That's another one, but this is more of a narrative situation than actual tangible abilities and power, which is the headbands. There's the number 1 and the number 2 headbands. Basically, the number 1 headband, whoever wields it, is the undefeatable, unkillable god of fighting, basically. Whoever wields it is the strongest, the greatest of all. capable fighters. Basically, they're at the top of the top. They're just known as the number one. However, there's some kind of magic that specifically states that no one can defeat the number one unless if they have the number two headband. And I don't know if that's more of like an honor thing or if it's actually a genuine power thing, but that's more seen as a narrative standpoint than anything else. So I just thought that'd be that's kind of an interesting downside. You wear a headband and you're now number one target. Everyone knows who you are, or at least everyone knows about you, sort of thing, because you're the number one. Who doesn't know the number one? But also it's that thing of in narratively, the downside is as soon as anyone sees that headband, they know what it means. And the number two is always the person who's always got people nipping at their heels, because anyone is allowed to defeat number two to take that headband, but only the number two can go after the number one. So I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. I thought it was kind of interesting bringing that up. That's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, aha, you can have this to defeat them, but everyone knows that you have it, and everyone's going to be gunning for you, so to speak. As you said about the whole thing of like everyone in the world is coming after you because you got the Elder Wand or the number two headband. So
I like that as well. I like that as well as like a consequence you wouldn't necessarily meet, because it's not really so much an ironic consequence or like a personal thing. It's like it's based on like notoriety. It's like everyone wants what you have, and like you'll get people coming after you and like hating you because of what you have, and it's
the concern of everything has a consequence, no matter how small or how big. And then, as Sam said before, as the double-edged sword thing, it was sort of bastardized. The whole concept of everything has a consequence, people believe that a consequence is a bad thing. No, a consequence is something that happens after something else. I get up and walk to the other side of the room. My consequence is I am now on the other side of the room. Whether or not that's a bad thing is really up to the situation of what that consequence is.
Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm on the other side of the room.
I don't want to be on the other side of the room.
The remote is on the other side.
People saw through my windows. They now know that I wear plaited tweed. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing either way. Like, narratively speaking, a double-edged sword is not just something that is mechanically based. It's also like actually like to do with the story itself. I don't know, Sam. Do you have anything to add to this?
Really, no. I'm afraid this topic is not really something I care much about.
Yeah,
it's not something I can get really in depth into.
Do you have
Alex with?
Okay, then. Well, I guess that's fair enough, because I mean, to be fair, I had to do quite a bit of research.
At some point, there's going to be a topic. I'm going to be the head honcho for, and you're going to be the one sitting in the back. I'm afraid this topic is me being the little like Siamese, like what do you call it? Like in not actually. Never mind. Not Chatterbox.
Forget.
Different film.
Different metaphor for the situation.
Different film. Different film I'm thinking of.
Well, I think it's just kind of interesting that like I think that this one is kind of an interesting one for many different reasons. It's not just mechanical. It's not just oh, this is obvious. You have this, therefore this is the downside, or oh, this and it has this problem and this backlash or something like that. For instance, like there's one that I'm going to now explain in Dragon Ball, and it's not the actual titular Dragon Balls. It's in Dragon Ball there is an item. There's this special fan that they needed to get nearing the end of the Dragon Ball series, before Dragon Ball Z, where they're trying to save this woman's father because he lives on this mountain that like easily sets fire and it never stops burning, and like they need this powerful god fan, but only the hero is able to use it because he's one of the only like 3 or 4 beings that are strong enough on the planet to be able to use it without any adverse effects. And there's his wife who picks it up, who just goes to bat something. with this fan, and she just gets knocked backwards, and it says like if she wasn't a trained fighter, it could have like shattered her arms or dislocated her shoulders or something. And it's like it's only because that she's so light that's why it knocked her back. But like the main protagonist, he's like built like a beefcake, so he's able to like actually use that fan and like properly like create a massive gust that just dissipates all of the flames. But yeah, it's ridiculous, that kind of thing. Like, you know, those kind of things of using this has this adverse effect. It will kill you. It will injure you. It requires something, or it takes something from you, or it starts taking over you. I don't know. I kind of like this subject. I do feel like there's a lot less things to talk about in this subject than there are the other two. Because again, like in the other two, we'll be actually talking about double-edged techniques and double-edged powers. But
I think it's because it's kind of personal. That's the thing, because it's like something that you have within you and that you are using. Whereas, like with these, you know, cursed objects and items, like you always have the option of throwing them away.
It depends, but yes, there is a thing of, by the way, don't take this, otherwise you'll die, or don't take this, otherwise you'll be cursed. It's like, yeah, you could not do it.
Yeah, I mean, or just like, you know, have the right person, you know, have the item. Like, if you're a complete and utter asshole, like the monkey's paw wouldn't be so bad, because you could have like saying, okay, I want $1 million. You know, and then your parents die and leave you a settlement of $1 million. It's like, well, I never really liked my parents anyway, and $1 million, awesome.
I still don't know if $1 million is worth it. I feel like you'd want.
Well, that's because you're a nice person.
Oh no, I'm not saying that I want to trade my parents for any kind of money, but I'm just saying, like, even if you didn't like them, surely you'd have the imagination of, I really want the massive amount of money that I could do whatever I wanted with. Although, to be fair, if you're using a monkey's paw, I guess the first wish is always going to be the one that is both quite, what's the word, like,
I guess kind of conservative, I suppose.
It's conservative, yeah. But it's more like, wouldn't it be funny if I had $1 million? I guess I wish for $1 million, or £1 million, or €1 million, or $1 million whatever. And it's just like, you know, it's a small amount, really, but if you knew it worked, you'd be like, yeah, I want 100 million, etc., etc. I
have thought of one.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, go on.
I have thought of one from DC, no less.
Oh, yeah?
The Legion of Superheroes. The Miracle Machine.
The Miracle Machine? I haven't actually heard of this one. Or maybe I have.
I mean,
it's a retcon.
I don't think I've heard of this.
It's probably not, because as I said, it is the Legion of Superheroes. But it was featured prominently in one of the many crises. I don't think it was Crisis for Infinite Earth, but it was one of the crises. Essentially, it allows your thoughts to become reality. So you can, like, change reality with your thoughts. But you have to be very precise, so any stray thought could cause catastrophe, more or less.
So kind of like that thing at the end of the original Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it's like, it's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Kind of, yeah. But exactly, but like people, if you like, depends on who uses it, because people like Brainiac 5, who are more machine than man, so to speak, have right control over their thoughts, to the point that telepaths, like, look at them and think they're apartment buildings, more or less.
No, I
That
think
kind
man
of works.
uses it.
It has a
I think man
downside.
uses it at the end. He uses that wish for a happy ending, which I like.
So, MacGuffin.
Not even kidding. Okay,
my-
that's how he saves the universe, if I remember correctly. He wishes for a happy ending.
Oh,
which I
that's
like.
that's so twee. It's just
I like
so
it.
him. I mean,
It made
yeah,
me smile.
I mean, it's like,
That's the reason
well,
I remember it.
that would have been the real dick move. Would be like, you know, just doing like, you know, the rude version of a happy ending or something, and just someone comes in to give him a hand job, and it's like, no, not that. Damn it!
No,
Now the world's
it's-
ended.
Finish my story.
But, like,
oh,
'cause
I'll
it-
finish your story.
The Superman's thoughts we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's well. You don't know his thoughts. He might be really kinky. You know, we don't know.
Clearly he wasn't, because the comic didn't end that way. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, that's the one example I could think of that's
So-
slightly different and nifty and
No,
decent.
I think that was a good example, to be fair, and it's
Yeah,
a
good example.
good
Yeah.
way to end this particular segment, because we're now going to go on to what do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? I actually was really trying to struggle to come up with anything for the what do we want segment, because usually we talk about stuff for a bit, and then we actually talk about how we would make it, or what we think would be an interesting one to make up. I mean, I've already done this so many times for the Animite Tales that I don't even have one anymore. So I'll let you two speak for your ones, that if you made up ones for either in a story or in a tabletop RPG, whether it's the fact that you're trying to pitch it to any of your current DMs or me. I don't mind, just, I want to see what you guys think of either that, or for an actual, just a story or a movie or being added into something.
Well, actually, yeah. Well, I already created like an item kind of like that. The rabbit kazoos, which I still have to flesh out.
You're not
But
getting
that's
away
what
with
moves that.
you're not getting away with just saying that.
No. I'm just like,
I mean, do you want to
Well, see,
explain what
something like
rabbit kazoos are?
Yes, would you like to?
The audience?
oh yeah. Basically, there are items. We have something like a shaper on the Patreon. You can get to create your own sort of unique items that will be in the game, which is kind of and these are like these are based on the Omegans known as the fortune children. Are they? Are they called lucky children or fortune
they're called
children?
fortune children.
Yeah, fortune children, where they have luck-based powers. And basically these are imbued with the powers of the good luck, versions of those powers. And they have the thing is, they don't really have downsides. Well, I mean, they do have downsides. They have limitations, but the one I was thinking of with double-edged things is another thing I had an idea for. Like these would be the good luck kazoos, where if you blow them, you basically get an advantage roll on anything you do. I mean, I can't remember what I wrote down exactly. I'll have to flesh it out a bit more. But like one of their powers is as long as you're blowing them with your lips, and you've got to have lips. We're not having any of this beak nonsense.
Nonsense.
We're not having this beak nonsense. You've got to be able to blow the kazoo, and whatever action you do while you're playing that kazoo will succeed. So it's not easy of like, oh yeah, I get a advantage roll to charisma, saying no, you got to blow this kazoo in order to succeed. So if you want to land all of those hits in succession in a martial arts contest, you better be blowing a good tune on that kazoo, because it ain't happening. And I mean, I just thought that was kind of a neat idea. It's just like that's one big downside of that is that I wanted like a powerful item that is based on luck, but I didn't want to make it too easy. Like it had to succeed only in something that doesn't involve your mouth. Of course, as Joe pointed out, Joe found a way around this actually, because it says mouth. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have one mouth. Like
yes,
if you buy a lot,
there's like 2 or 3 powers that allow you to shapeshift or create new parts of body parts and so on and so forth. You could just make a mouth on your hands or on your chest or some kind of mouth somewhere else, or even you could shapeshift into something that has multiple mouths and and lips, and then be able to blow it that way whilst you're also doing something else. Like for instance, you could literally just like make 2 heads, and like the head that's playing the kazoo, and then the other head that's actually trying to talk. And whilst it's playing like a little solo in the background, like you're like pronouncing the king and queen of
Yeah, and then you had multiple vowels. If you had like all 7, because I also specified that there were only 7 of them in existence,
because of course.
and because lucky number 7. Like if you were to like have all of them as this shape-shifting monster with like 7 or more mouths, imagine the devastation you could cause, or the goodness that you could cause by having a symphony with yourself and charming everyone you ever met with all of those advantage rolls. Anyway, that's not necessarily what I was thinking of, because I was thinking, before that, I was thinking of like some kind of button, like a magical button that's imbued with like the other side of the powers, which is the jinx powers of the fortune children. where you press a button and it is a D100 every single time of like random stuff happening, and it would be like literally anything could happen if you press that button. But yeah, no, it's not the Twilight Zone. Sam was just saying, is this the Twilight Zone episode? No, it's an original idea. Do not steal. It's
I
an
mean-
original idea I came up with. Okay.
I mean, Sam has just outed you, so we'll
Oh
have
well,
to, we'll have to come back to that.
all right. It's partly based. It's partly based on the Twilight Zone.
I wanna
button
actually say-
episode.
It is different.
I want to actually say,
But
like,
it is different.
that is an
different.
interesting concept to have a D100, have it like that
Yeah.
in a game. I will say this though, it is pretty darn basic to have come up with also a bad luck item after already making a good luck item.
I know, but I just love the powers. Okay.
Yeah, well, there's no downside to this because unless if it's randomly allocated to whoever, for instance, it's like, oh, there's a 50-50 chance it will work on whoever you want. But there's also a 50-50 chance of it working against you instead. Like that would be an interesting one. Like, bad luck for you.
Yeah. It's like you could have so many possibilities of that because it's like literally anything could happen. So like things that are like really ridiculous could happen. It's like we got to get out of this situation, and it's like press the button, cow falls from the sky. How did that happen? Say, well, it just so happened that overhead there was a huge plane shipment of dairy cows. And they just managed to like have an escapee come up, and the poor cow, poor Daisy, fell from the heavens right onto where this boss was just there, and it was just like that is the most unlikely thing to happen, but it happened. And of
Fair
course, the
enough.
other side of that would be if like the 50-50 chances that the cow falls on you instead.
So what about
Comes
you,
a Monty
Sam?
Python episode for a second.
That does sound like a Monty Python, especially considering the cow is named Daisy, which that's a whole other thing to get into at some point. What about you, Sam?
Oddly enough, I just realized there's another magical item I could think of. That is an anime reference, regrettably. But I do know one item
Okay.
that Coin made for me, actually.
Okay.
Ooh.
As the final to the campaign where I played Zephyr. It was an item that allowed you to cast any 10th level spell. I'm saying this isn't D&D, this was in Shadow of the Demon Lord,
I knew you
where
were going to
10th
say
level...
Shadow of the Demon Lord.
Yes, where 10th level is essentially unattainable. Because the highest you can get is like 5. 5th level magic. 10th level is impossible, more or less. It grants you the power to cast one 10th level spell. You learn it instantly, you can cast it, but you have like a minute of life afterwards. Before you
Oh, damn.
Oh, like
Well, you better make sure that you know what you're doing.
So I used it in the game to more.
Oh dear.
Oh no, it's Sam gone.
Sam has gone. No, he only had 1 minute left.
That was exactly 1 minute. It was exactly 1 minute. Oh my god.
Oh, that is crazy.
Coin, what have you done? You knew Sam was going to use it for trivia.
For those who don't know, just on the Discord call, just as he started finishing up what he was about to say, or just started saying what he was about to say, he just cut out and just disappeared, like just vanished. So I mean, that happened.
Oh my god. It might be Discord's done another update as well. I found that actually. Like Discord is just like saying no, you will update.
Discord
will
seems
update.
to like its bouquets of oopsie daisies way too much. I mean, it's
Sorry about that.
There we go. Sam is
Thank God,
back.
Sam.
Internet just decided just to fail there for a second.
So like you had exactly 1 minute, Sam. Like after you said the 1 minute, death item, and I was worried.
Yeah. Well, I used it to essentially stop demons from bringing upon the Demon Lord, which is this ancient, all-powerful entity that breaks through the cracks of reality, and destroys the world instantly by corruption and death. Essentially every enemy in Captain Planet, but to the nth degree.
Fair enough. So
Yeah.
you used that spell, and then I'm taking it that your character ended up dying because of the result of the using that.
Yeah, but it's okay. He didn't have a soul, so he just died.
No, fair enough.
He just died.
I mean, yeah,
Strange,
it's
but
like
okay.
it's sort of yeah. I mean, it's sort of like it is like what we're talking about. It's like being wielded by exactly the right person, where it's like, it's all right if I die. I've saved the world,
I
and I
mean,
haven't got a soul. So
I was gonna say like one of the craziest ones was because I'm now gonna crickety crack goes the fingers and back because I'm about to lay some knowledge bombs on you. The
Are you
big
bringing a reference?
I'm bringing a reference.
Can I do my reference afterwards then?
In Animite Tales, I'm just going to list off a couple of ones that we've actually had in campaigns that are not in any of the official modules because they were made for the specific campaigns. So there was Raven's Claw, or the Uccello's Claw, which was a weapon that was made out of a powerful lightning user's abilities of electrokinesis. But it had a downside of it kept on sparking back and backfiring electricity in AoE. So if anyone was in like a 20 meters radius of the user or the wielder of it, they'd be hit by lightning. Even the original wielder of it, it's what's known as a calamity weapon. It does more damage, but it has the chance of backfiring and even harming the user, because calamity weapons can be used to kill the original user. However, Hawk, who has living lightning, his entire body can turn into electricity. So therefore, whenever the lightning hit him, it did nothing because his entire body was immune, and it's not directly his calamity weapon, so it can't directly have the ability to ignore his immunity or resistance. So it was like, oh, this is the perfect weapon for him. Another one which was kind of interesting, which we never actually got to see, was the Spear of Ra. That was a weapon that at some point someone with fire and energy resistance and immunity out the wazoo was going to try and grab hold of that. And again, like, it's like, oh, if you're not worthy of it, then basically, like, you just take a huge amount of like damage from both fire and energy damage. The Staff of Danu. Anyone who is not worthy becomes chlorified, meaning that they turn into plant life. And finally, the last one that I actually kind of like, it's the 7 Sinner weapons. And their downsides are basically they corrupt you and turn you into one of the 7 deadly sins, in the terms of like they make you more powerful, but you're aligned with that specific sin. And basically it can even basically force you to kill your own or fight against or betray your own party members, because that basically the weapon is somewhat possessing your personality. It doesn't have a personality, it just has sort of, I guess you could say, a programmed agenda or something. Anyway, so that was a few of them that we've done before. I'd say that the last one, really, a weapon that actually does have a pretty unique downside, an item, is the 9 Rings for Humanity, which actually are in modules. Without giving away any of what their abilities are, they're basically rings that if you put them on, they give you a special boost or a special ability. But if you don't have the willpower, you can't take them off, because you can't be willing to take it off yourself. And depending on how long you've worn them for, also is the amount of time that you have adverse effects after it, kind of almost like your body going into withdrawal.
Oh, I didn't know that actually, because yeah, we briefly touched on them a bit with the wielders of them, and it's like, oh right, yeah, okay, so just the more you wear them, the more consequences happen.
If you don't reach, if you're not, when you put on the ring originally, if you didn't have the willpower required for it, the adverse effects are guaranteed after you've worn them for any longer than a couple of minutes without being able to successfully roll willpower to break out of it and tear it off your finger or remove it from yourself. One person put it on, and within about the first hour, someone cut their hand off. Not themselves. Someone actually cut their hand off because that, like, they realized that the ring was starting to possess their personality. But yeah, so that's just a few of them, again, without going into specifics, because the 9 rings actually will make it into one of the modules, or at least all 9 of them will be in separate modules, if not all of them in one module. But anyway, go on, Sam. What is your portion of the what do we want segment?
My reference or my what do I want?
The what do you want?
Do I want? I quite like I did quite like the 10th level magic instant kill move. To be honest, I always love that kind of last man destroy the army technique. Yeah, get my meaning? Like
I know.
Like the John Sheridan flying into the Minbari spaceship. I always love those kind of.
Again, it sucks because I really want to talk about it, but again, I can't. But it does remind me of a lot of the last stand abilities or the last stands in movies and special powers that drain a person to the last ounce. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like weapons that have that key ability, or even are just so ridiculous. I swear there was one. There's like a sword or some kind of weapon that's like whoever wears it or wields it, basically for a certain amount of minutes they have like godlike power, but afterwards their body disintegrates because like their body cannot handle this kind of power for any longer than a few seconds or something like that. I can't remember what it is. It's something ridiculous, like a weapon.
It's the equivalent of like strapping a bomb to your chest and like going in to like the big bad and just say like, well, I may die, but I'm taking you with me.
I like that.
One of my favorite ever moments of you guys doing something like that was other Alex Barrington. He playing as Wretched Thing. He had a grenade belt, and everyone was like, "Oh, I wonder when that's going to be used." And you guys fought a mini boss, and you just wrapped the grenade belt round his head, pulled one of the pins, and the whole thing just lit the dude up like a Christmas tree, and it was just instantly like all of his health was practically gone. I think he only had like a couple of points left before like you guys just finished him off, and it was that thing of like, again, like that was so awesome, but there's always that thing of there's no guarantee. And I think Sam, you're 100% right. The final go off, like, this'll get you, and I don't care what it does to me as long as I win, or even the spiteful thing of it'll kill you too, and it has to kill you to be able to kill me too.
To quote Sheridan, I could Sheridan. If I'm going out, I'm taking you bastards with me.
It's definitely in a lot of things, so it could be from that.
Yeah, from Babylon 5. Watch that series.
Again, it's sort of like, it is like the wielder that is the issue. And this is like, yeah, this would be the worst item at all if you actually cared about living. But if living is sort of like, I'd rather die with this guy than have him live, then it's like, yeah, this is the perfect weapon. I'll take that, thank you very much.
I know there was one particular thing where there was a weapon that, when wielded by anyone else, it would kill them, but it's like in a series, and this one guy who wields it is immortal. Like, he like, straight up, his only ability is immortality. But because he can't die, he's the only person who can wield this, like, legendary weapon or something. I cannot remember what it's from. I wrote another series similar to that. At one point, I wrote an actual like short story about a character whose only power is being indestructible. And basically, it's like he grows up in this sort of like neighborhood where a bunch of other people had like really cool powers and they were like really flashy, and he just really wanted to be like a cool superhero, and he thought he was never going to get powers until eventually like he's about to get hit by a car and the whole thing just bends around him, and he thinks maybe I have super strength and all this, and like no, he just his power is just like his body cannot be harmed or damaged, he cannot be like killed, and he goes out to like be like a hero, and at one point he's like nearly drowned or suffocated or something, and eventually at one point there's a moment where a speedster who's like taking down like loads of these heroes before their very eyes, he then attacks the main character, and he shatters his entire arm against the guy's face because he's indestructible. And so the speedster's just lying on the ground, his entire arm is just like crunched, and he's just like, well, I guess I captured you then. Just, yep, straight up. Got you.
Yeah, I did that intentionally.
Haha, I guess you could say I'm hard-headed.
And that drains his final HP and he dies.
It's the bonus
Terrible,
cutting words.
yeah, the bonus cutting words. Oh, that hurt. Oh,
But coming up with
died.
something like that, I guess you could say like similar to that, like a character with indestructibility and having some kind of like a weapon that backfires, or like that actually like usually is so dangerous that it shatters people's like arms or damages their skin, and it's like being wielded by a guy who can't take any damage. These weapons would be perfect, sort of thing. I kind of like that kind of style of stuff. Like it's like, you know, the perfect wielder, the perfect user, the perfect vessel. I don't know if you guys have any other like examples of the perfect circumstance for double-edged weapons.
Well, I mean, I need to get through Black Clover, basically, because it's literally like the perfect weapon with the perfect user, a guy that doesn't have any magic at all and can wield a weapon that is pure anti-magic and can cut through any kind of magic. And it's like, yeah, it is actually like, yeah, normally this would be useless or just completely, just completely unwieldable because it's just eating your mana away. But no, this guy doesn't have any mana, and he's also strong as hell, so he can do anything with it, and he can like pretty much counter any magical move. Because of this is a pure anti-magic weapon.
That is it's just so
Yeah.
cool. I don't care what people
That
say.
is
That's
cool.
just so cool.
It is cool. I mean, it's strange
I've
that
never
it passed
seen
me
it,
by.
by the
I've
way.
like found it. Yeah, I know. Bill's seen it and stuff, and I found it out like through this podcast. Actually, I was just looking for examples, and I'm like, anime. I like it. This is good.
I've seen like either the first episode or the first two episodes, and I was like, I'll definitely come back to this, and I never came back to it. I don't know. Maybe if I'm like really
It's good.
needing a binge of something, I'll binge that. But it's not something that I'm massively into, which is weird because the whole thing is about superpower.
I know. I would think
magical
that this
superpowers
would
sort of thing.
be. I think this would be like your wheelhouse. I thought you'd really like it, but it's like, you're just kind of like, oh well, I don't know. It's not One Piece.
Excuse me, I watch other things that aren't One Piece. I mean, don't look at my Funimation account because all it will be is One Piece because there's nothing else streaming at the moment. Well, My Hero Academia. I really, really like Fire Force. Sorry, we're completely digressing now. I will say this: like a perfect coupling between an item and a user, I'd actually have to say is this is a bit of a weird one actually. So I obviously said the guys in Naruto, like I think it's Jinkaku and Ginkaku. They both had the ability of like a massive amount of chakra, so they could wield like the 4 out of the most ridiculously OP treasures of like the 5 treasures of the Sage of the Six Paths. It's ridiculous because they're like so much power, they have so much chakra, so that they don't have any of the adverse downsides and drawbacks to using these weapons. But I swear there was another one. In another show, someone who had some kind of like ridiculous weapon, and it's like, oh, anyone else who tries to wield it, it's actually it might be Naruto, the seven swordsmen of the Hidden Mist Village. There's 7 different swords, and one of them is a shark creature sword. It's almost like the sword is practically living, and again, similar to the one thing, it chooses its user, and it is alive, and it's like basically just an entire it looks like a lollipop stick made of just spikes and shark teeth. And anyone who touches the handle, it creates spikes to just like pierce through the person's hand, because it's like, no, I don't want you to, I don't want you to wield me, no. And so it just sort of does that. and it's basically a sword that is alive, and they never explain it. But the perfect wielder for it is a guy who enjoys using it to kill and enjoys using it to like steal other people's chakra. Eventually, it's then again taken by another guy because the sword itself actually then basically sticks with this other guy because it loved eating his chakra so much that eventually it actually became pretty much partnered with him. Because it was like, oh no, this is a better situation. Like this is a better alternative, being around someone who actually has a much nicer chakra, and it sort of just ended up being just sort of like almost a symbiotic relationship at that point in the terms of weapon and wielder.
It's not you, it's me. I'm just a sword that needs a better chakra.
Yeah. There's a couple of other ones in that show that are kind of interesting, but that one is the only one that I can really think of that has like the best ones. I don't know. What do you think, Sam? Are there any like really decent pairings between double-edged item and wielder?
Kind of one. What? Not really. Possibly.
Go for it.
Because it means I get to mention Tanya, the Saga of Evil.
Do it. Come on.
I will. Well, for those that know the anime,
None of
At
us
least
do. Go on.
No, I mean I've heard of it, but go on.
okay, essentially, a Japanese atheist gets punted into a train, meets God, doesn't believe in him, and God essentially decides, well, you don't believe in me, I'm going to make you believe in me by turning you into a little girl in, like, magical World War I, more or less, and be on the German side.
Anime!
Actually, it's very good. I do recommend it. Essentially, she uses a math-based magical device, a computation gem, allows her to fly and use her magic, but King X, aka God, has manipulated it so it only works if she prays to him.
Okay.
Because she's an atheist, and if she doesn't pray to him, it goes all wonky and may explode. If she flies, she'll go like diagonally and the wrong way and erratically.
God is just the worst, as far as I hear.
I mean, yeah, it's great, and he even sends a character called Mary Sue after her at one point, spelled Sioux, from I think the Americans, if I remember correctly, like the American version of this world. It's great. Watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a magical item that has the downside being that she has to keep praying to the being X.
I feel like that's with the worst possible person that it could have been with. If that kind of item has been like if it was like with an actual person like a clergyman or a nun or I don't know, someone who's at least a little bit more devout, it would be like, yeah, man, whoever this is has basically the power of like ridiculous. Just ridiculous power. And Sam, I think you didn't understand our questioning. We said,
but
a decent couple.
Yeah,
No, I'm kidding. Okay.
He said sorta. He said sorta.
I mean, it is the perfect coupling of an atheist and a religious, more or less.
Like, if it is just sort of
the
like
perfect coupling for comedy, it's not the perfect coupling in the terms of any other thing else, because obviously it's like.
Well, that's the thing, because like I'm assuming she uses it for evil.
Well, she uses it for war, which she's in on.
Evil.
Yeah, I mean, I did say she is on the German side in World War One, more or less, where she tries to take over the world, or like she tries to help them.
Classic Easter
end the war.
Shit.
Yeah, but watch it. It is very good.
Anyway, so
it sounds stupid.
I guess we'll come to the end of this episode as always we should do when we start talking about World War II animes. I was actually going to say the next episode will be
World War One.
It's the better one.
Yeah.
The better of the
I
wars.
care so little.
It's not Nazis, but it's like they have reasons for
No,
wanting
I just
to
can't. I
take over
can't. I
land.
tried so hard, and I can't care.
Well, this is like me when you talk about One Piece.
I am sorry.
Or the
okay?
other various anime.
I am sorry. I will not say sorry to about anything else other than One Piece, because I do talk about that way too much. Anyway, so, and My Hero Academia, although to be fair, Anyway, so next week we'll actually be talking about double-edged powers, and we might try and see if we can go a little longer, because we went a little longer than we should have done on something that we thought that we didn't really have a lot on. So I mean, maybe we'll go a little longer on that and wrap it up in 2 episodes rather than 3 on powers and techniques, or we can do 2 separate ones. We'll see exactly what kind of material we have, but we'll do powers, and then if we really think that like we're running low on double-edged powers, we'll add techniques to that podcast, and we'll actually talk about them. Because
I do have a lot for powers.
I mean, it's kind of funny because I mean, I've actually got a lot for techniques, because I mean, powers are kind of interesting and stuff, but there's a lot of like techniques and stuff that.
I have next to nothing for that. I don't watch enough anime as you do.
But maybe
or at least I watch that kind of anime.
Well, to be fair, I'm maybe we'll go into it, or maybe we won't. In the terms of like a separate one, but if not, I might try and see if we do that one. I might try and see if we can get another guest on to see if they would be available for the techniques one, because I've got a couple of ideas for that, but we'll see. Either way, next week will be double-edged powers and or maybe double-edged techniques. Also in 2 weeks' time, or at least in a week and a half's time, we'll be doing our first episode of
we lost the footage. We lost the footage.
Well,
yeah.
I lost the footage because some things went wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stream and record on OBS, because hopefully that'll work. But
ask Ben to record it as well. I have asked him just in case in case this happens again, more or less. Better to have 2 people record it than just one.
Yeah, 2 idiots are better than 1 idiot. That's what. Yeah,
that's
one of you. I say.
Broken clock is right twice a day.
Fair enough.
I mean, it was kind of shit. I want to apologize to people as well that we lost the footage, because it's like, I had a lot of fun in that game. And
I don't know why you're apologizing, considering that it was not only something that was completely out of your control, but it also was technically something completely out of mine.
I'm covering for you.
No, they need to know the truth. My internet crapped out and it cut out the stream into like 4 segments. But because that I had done about 2 or 3 test streams, when I looked on Twitch, I then deleted what I thought were the test streams and exported what I thought was the only stream. Turns out that when I posted it, it was a 15-minute cut, and what had actually deleted the majority of the rest of the footage. I was so annoyed, but ultimately a bunch of mistakes were made on that recording anyway, so never mind. But it doesn't matter, because again, it was episode 0. It was just everyone sort of like getting into the swing of things, and now we'll actually be going on to the actual start of the actual plot, because I just gave you guys the starting mission, so you guys will actually see that. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
See you in the future.
And as always, ciao ciao for now.